warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Research ethics. What are research ethics and research integrity and why are they important? Research ethics and integrity practices make sure that research is conducted according to the highest standard of practice and with the minimum risk of adverse or harmful outcomes or consequences. Research community and a wider public will have confidence in the outcome of your research and the quality of your research outcome will be enhanced. Research is conducted honestly, provides confidence that conclusions drawn from research can be relied upon to be accurate, minimizes potential risks to researchers and participants of research, protecting the vulnerable and ensuring their safety and well-being, safeguards data collected during the course of research, particularly sensitive data, respectively respecting confidentiality, avoids unfair allegations of misconduct whilst ensuring that genuine concerns are appropriately investigated, prevents people being drawn into terrorism, ensures conflict of interest are identified and avoided. What do I need to consider if your project involves any of the following? You will need to think about how to address these. Are these risks potential risks to researchers and participants involved in the research? This could be either the activity to be undertaken or the location the research is to be conducted. For example, are you investigating illegal behavior or activities? Could the disseminations of your finding adversely affect participants? Will your research be carried out in a hazardous areas or in area not recommended for travel? Does your research concern groups which are legally constituted or as terrorist or extremist? Will the research expose either researchers or participants to situations or circumstances they might find distressing? Will any of the participants be classed as vulnerable, for example, are any of them under 16 years of age, unable to communicate in the language in which the research is conducted, members of stigmatized or marginalized social groups, have a relationship with the researchers either personally or professionally? How will you show that any participants have agreed to take part? Will they be able to give informed consent individually? Will consent need to be obtained from parents or guardians? Will the purpose of your research be concealed from participants at the outset? Are you collecting personal data either face to face or online? If so, how will you obtain the consent of participants? How will this be securely stored and maintained? How will this data be used? With whom it will be shared? How and when it will be disposed of? How do I identify and address my any concerns? The priority in understanding an ethical assessment is not to decide that certain activities or lines of equity inquiry are prohibited or should not be undertaken in any circumstances. Instead, relevant questions to ask are: in what ways might this research involve the risk of harm to either participants or researchers? How can I ensure that any such risks are prevented or minimized? In undertaking an ethical assessment, you might conclude that there is no plausible risk of harm in the proposed research activities. If, however, you conclude that there are some risks, then the important thing is to think about what you might do to reduce, minimize, or prevent them. You will be asked to clarify how you plan to achieve this, and ethical approval will be conditioned on those plans being credible. UK Research Integrative Office. Please also consider the following checklist compiled by the UK Research Integrity Office. This Checklist covers the requirement of research projects, both small and large, from single author dissertation to multi-center collaborative enterprises. Therefore, some of the items it asks you to consider will probably not be relevant to you. Recommended checklist for researchers. Checklist lists the key points of good practice in research for research projects and is applicable to all subject areas. More detailed guidelines can be found in section 3. A PDF version is available from. Before conducting your research and bearing in mind that subject to legal and ethical requirement, rules and contribution may change during the time span of the research. Does the proposed research address pertinent questions, or it is designed either to add to existing knowledge about the subject in question or to develop methods for research into it? Is your research design appropriate for the questions being asked? Will you have access to all necessary skills and resources to conduct the research? Have you conducted a risk assessment to determine whether there are any ethical issues and whether ethics reviews is required? The potential for risk to the organization, the research, or the health, safety, and well-being of researchers and research participants, and what legal requirement govern the research? Will your research comply with all legal and ethical requirement and other applicable guidelines, including those from other organizations or countries if relevant? Will your research comply with all requirements of legislation and good practice relating to health and safety? Has your research undergone any unnecessary ethics review? See 4A above, especially if it involves animals, human participants, human material, or personal data. Will your research comply with any